Y'all live. Let me go and get the commercial. Let's get it. Yo, what's up, everybody? Want to thank y'all for tuning in once again. Episode 2 of the Money, Wine, and BDSM. What's up, everybody? Presented by my boy Logic. You know what I'm saying? I am your host, DQ Hampton, one of the representatives of Tri-Media Innovation. Shout out Hits, shout out Brass, shout out my boy Logic. We making it happen. Today we got a special guest. Today we have a plethora of topics that we're going to get into. And I'm so happy to join y'all today online and glad y'all can join us. To the stage, I want to go ahead and bring the man of the hour to go on and get it popping. My man Logic. What up, Logic? How you feeling today, baby?
I'm feeling pretty good, man. I'm really excited. I think this is going to be a really good show. Really, really healthy, man. I think it goes right along with the whole idea of, talking about BDSM in a very healthy way, constructive way. And, bringing somebody who has more information about it than I am. Been doing it a little bit longer than me. A little bit better read on the subject, right? So let me introduce my special guest, Tender. Right. Also my mentor in BDSM.
Hi. How you doing? I'm sorry it took me a second, but I'm all tied up. And since we're talking about BDSM,
I like that. That's how you break the ice. That's it. I'm gonna fall back and handle your business, baby.
Okay. So Tender, we had a little conversation before the show a little bit, and I appreciate you coming on again, by the way. And you listened to the last show that we did with another guest of mine, Mari, and you heard the topic of buffet of fetishes come up a couple times, right? You told me that was something that you wanted to be able to put some more emphasis on, some more detail about. So, what about that specific term sparked an interest in you wanting to talk more about it?
which term are you talking about? Because I missed one little thing that you said there. Are you talking about this buffet?
The buffet of fetishes, right?
Oh yes, I want to get right into that
Let's talk. Let's
because
talk about that.
since you so graciously led us into the room of this buffet, I say we start picking from it. So the first thing I want to say is I would like this to be an icebreaker. I want it to break the ice of the idea of BDSM, right? Because I want to gear this particular thing that I want to say toward my own community. So I'm talking to the Black community when I say this part, right? When we think about BDSM, we think, oh, that's some white people stuff. That's not what we don't do that over here. And I want to break the ice there first, right? Because we do that a lot. Um, highly sexual black men into today, they're very BDSM geared. Uh, when you're talking about things, fetishes and kinks, we're not just talking about that weird stuff you see when people are tying each other up or playing with candle wax. We're also talking about, why do you think it's necessary to spank somebody on the butt when you're making love? You don't have to hit somebody on the butt to make love. Okay. So if you like that, okay, that's a kink. Okay, that's a fetish. Okay, I'm a slapper on the butt. So many times I've been in a club and somebody brushes by my butt, and I'm like, nah, he did that. Okay, so that's a fetish. Okay, um, you hear people, our community you'll listen to the guys talking. They'll say, well, she's a freak, and see the difference between freaky and kinky. Well, there is no difference between the two. And so when you're talking about the girl that's a freak, you're talking about fetishes and kink. Biting of the lip, making a hickey. Hickeys are painful. I don't know. I've had a couple hickeys in my life. They're not fun sometimes. Okay. But you take it because this guy wants to give you this hickey, or this girl wants to give you this hickey, right? She wants to inflict pain to the point where there's something red, a little red cherry popping up so she can leave her mark. That is the kink. Okay. Pulling of the hair. You definitely don't have to pull a hair like you're riding a horse to make love, but you like to pull hair, and that's a kink. Okay. So I just want to break the ice where you think that you are beyond BDSM, if that's the thought, right? Or that that's too much for me, or that, oh, this is that freaky stuff. Yeah, this is that freaky stuff that you do too, and that you think about and desire. Okay. And those are the things that we can also call kink. And they fall into the BDSM spectrum too. So I wanted to talk about that buffet, because yes, it is a buffet, and there's much more on the table than what people usually would think is.
So such as what?
I just named some of them, but
you
can.
You want to go into a few more of them, or you want to be able to get into some more of the questions?
We can get into some more questions. I think those are the ones that I mentioned are a good starter for you to start, for a person to start thinking about. Yeah, in what ways am I kinky too? In what ways, am I freaky too? Right? That fall into this conversation.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then part of our previous conversation, we talked about how everybody kind of practices it in their own way or another, and they may not categorize it as necessarily a kink or a fetish, but it is, right. And there's kind of like a real thin line, if any, between how people do it in BDSM and then how people do it outside of BDSM in the vanilla world, the vanilla life, as you would kind of call it, right? So,
yeah, right.
I think that that's actually very interesting. I remember one of the first things that I felt really welcome to when we started having these conversations, um, way back when. It was more like, some of these terms were, it was refreshing to know that some of these terms weren't taboo. These actually were appropriate and acceptable things that we could openly kind of talk about, especially with your partners. If that's somebody that you plan on being intimate with, you don't have to be afraid of some of these, I guess, desires, or some of these things that you actually like, and you can figure out a way to do it really healthy, to make it healthy for both of you guys. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yes, I do agree that there is. Uh, how do I want to put this? I want to keep it PG too, like you guys said in your last show, right? Um, the dynamics that we find in BDSM are dynamics that we also see in the vanilla world. Where some people's life, where the way they have it set up in their mind, right? Because it's in your mind how you want your role to be. It's not really something that has to be done. In certain parts of the world, there are things that have to be the way that they are. But here in the United States, at this point in time in our history, you're kind of creating your reality, right? So these dynamics, oh, I can't believe she talked to me like that. Women should speak like this. Oh, I want her to do this or that in bed, and I don't want her to do this. Or I don't like it when he does that, but he should do this. And then there's this war, right? So why is BDSM healthy? Because even if you're having just a housewife, husband dynamic, that can be found in the play in BDSM. It can be found as a lifestyle, or it can be found as a scene that you're creating. So it really doesn't matter what the dynamics are in your relationship. What's going to make it not vanilla? Vanilla is the world that everybody seems to think is normal, which I totally disagree. And then BDSM is over here. What makes it different is structure, right? It's communication. It's saying in the beginning of the relationship what a person is looking for, and not fumbling around hoping, if I give her a couple of drinks and I talk the right way, if I dress the right way, if I smell the right way, maybe she'll, we don't think this way. What we do is we say, hey, will you do this? Are you down? Okay. And girls too, we go around, oh man, maybe I can make him my daddy. Maybe he'll pay for this, or maybe he'll do that. And then we get into these relationships where we haven't had the conversation and we let each other down. And we're pushing for something, but the other person doesn't know what we're pushing for, because these are all secret desires that we're holding in our heart that we haven't really told you. These are the expectations or the desires we want, right? So I think it's much more healthy because of the psychology. Because in this world, we're going to tell you what it is we want out of the gate, right? And if we like each other, then we're going to talk some more. Now, this could be a downside, but it's actually what makes it more healthy, because in BDSM, we talk and talk and talk. Okay, so in a vanilla relationship, you see a lot of them fall apart because of lack of communication. We don't have that problem over here because we talk too much. Okay. We talk too much. And we have books and worksheets and things that DOMs give to subs to answer all of these questions before they even decide to become involved, before they even commit. They're learning who you are and they're deciding if they want to care for you. And so those are the things that make BDSM healthy. And to speak, I talk a lot, so I'm sorry, but to speak to exactly what you just said to me, when we bumped into each other, and this is something I find in a lot of men, okay, black, white, and otherwise, okay, and women, is the picking on oneself that you do when you can't figure out why it is you don't fit in this slot that makes relationships work, right? And we also pick on ourselves for our own personal desires, our sexual fantasies. We beat ourselves up, right? So when you switch your brain over, which takes a while to do, to this world, you start to understand that there's a terminology for just about anything you are or want to be. Right? So you're a guy who's a little rough in bed. And so, you can't do that. I can't do that with my wife. See, we don't have that problem here. Right? Because if you can't do it with your wife and your wife's not BDSM, that's your fault. But if she's BDSM, you can have a playmate to be rough with. Right? But you don't have to be rough with her. Right? So you can flower out a relationship that is much more grounded. You can have a communication that is much stronger, and you can build a trust at a level that you wouldn't be able to build in vanilla. And that's what makes it more healthy.
I appreciate that. That was a great answer. That was a great answer right there. So let me ask you this question, right? So why do you think it's so important to be careful with subs?
Oh, that's good.
You brought me up to. That's a really good topic right there, right? And I mean, we've talked about it, but I would definitely want to be able to share with the listening audience of why, in some ways too, how is a submissive woman different from a vanilla woman, and why is it important to be just a little bit more careful with the way that you deal with them?
Okay, so he said let's talk about this as though we're talking to only novice people who know nothing about BDSM.
Correct.
So when you get into this world and you take a little test or whatever you do to figure out exactly who you are, which is another really great thing that we do, we dig into ourselves first, right? We ask ourselves the pertinent questions to figure out exactly what flavor we are. And then we get comfortable with that first. So now you've decided, okay, I'm a little rough around the edges. I am a dom and I want to be in control. I definitely want to control every aspect of the situation at hand. Okay. And I want to be spoken to in a certain way. So there's all these flavors of doms. There's daddy doms and then, masters and all of this stuff happens in BDSM. So you decided, you say, okay, I'm a daddy dom. I'm not really about to, get the whips and chains out. I'm a daddy dom. I want a baby girl sub. And you can always go and Google up all the different flavors of submissives. And so you figured this out and you say, I want a baby girl sub. Well, now you have to pump your brakes. If you are the dominant party, there is a lot of energy placed into caring for that submissive. Being the dominant party doesn't make you in power over a submissive. Submissives have power that they are giving over to you, and they have responsibilities, and they have things that they have to do to please you. And you have a responsibility to care for that submissive, her needs, her kinks, and the things that please her and make her feel secure, just as she should be making you feel secure. So you have to engage with these people long enough to know who they are, or you're just a vanilla guy trying to be, just being dirty and running around the kink world trying to figure out, if you can do the same damage you did in your vanilla life, right? You have to get to know these women. You have to decide, hey, what kind of sub is this? And do I have the energy, okay, to care for her in the way that she stated is going to make her level and calm, mentally sound, spiritually sound, physically sound? Do I have the energy for that? A lot of people run out into this side of the game and they say, oh, well, over here, these ladies, they don't mind if I have a lot of ladies. Well, that might be true in a way. One sub might mind, one sub might not. And that's why you need to take the time to figure out who you're dealing with and if that's going to fit you. And then also, if you say, okay, I have this baby girl and she doesn't mind if I have playmates, but she needs to be texted twice a day and she needs to be checked up on. And she likes it when I make sure she's not running in the street. And she whatever these dynamics are, right? Mm-hmm, she wants to be taken care of in this way. So now, do I have the energy to take on another sub and make sure I'm not cheating them where the energy is involved? Correct. Right? So maybe I have this baby girl sub who needs all this attention and love and doviness. And maybe I have this slave sub who needs something to do that serves me consistently. Slaves are a lot of work. Men say, oh, I want me a slave. I've seen men come into the BDSM world and go, yeah, that's it. That's the ticket. I want the slave, But slaves are a lot of work for a dom because in order to make them happy, they need to be serving you. And that causes you to spend energy and time. And so what you don't want to do is switch over into BDSM and then cause damage, right? A lot of people, especially women, find their way to BDSM because they realize, hey, something's going wrong over here in vanilla. Okay. And they trip over into BDSM because they say, oh, I'm not crazy. I'm submissive. And they've already experienced every sort of abuse. That's another reason why you want to be very careful with submissive women, right? Because they find themselves here to create a more healthy space. And if you come tripping, bubbling in and just trying to pick up on women, now you're creating more damage where there's already damage.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I've had, some unique experiences with that as far as realizing that subs do require a different type of attention, a much closer eye, right? They can be maybe, I don't want to say this as a bad thing, but certainly just requiring more attention, right? You need to give her a lot of reassurance. Like that's not unusual, right? And then that's not unusual for us to be able to have a conversation about how much I'm enjoying it. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
that's actually a part of how it's part of the thing that I actually do enjoy is is learning a different person and what their needs are and being super attentive. Like that's where for me that's where a lot of the real fun is when you're actually getting to know these new habits and learning what are all this, what is this environment that I need to create so you can actually be happy, so you can be comfortable. And sometimes I struggle with the speed, right? I might try to enjoy that phase and speed up to intimacy a little too fast, which is definitely some of the things that you've had needed to correct me on, because like you said, that's vanilla thinking, right? That's me not being BDSM, and the more
Well,
BDSM
it
way of doing it.
let me correct it. Okay,
Go
so
ahead.
it depends, right? Like if you are a man who has studied and now you're starting to vet, okay? And you've decided you're going to deal with a specific kind of submissive, then maybe those kind of submissives require more attention than others. There are people who do this as a lifestyle, and there are people who do this on the weekend after they leave their CEO job, and they don't really even want to talk to you from Monday to Friday. There are women in this family and community that are only submissive at home, right? And they're super, you know, boss all week long, and what they're looking for is to give up some power on a Friday and a Saturday night, right? And then there are women who do this as a lifestyle. And there are women who are switches. They sometimes they're dominant and sometimes they're submissive. You had a young lady on last week that's interested in that position, right? To be a switch. So it really is up to you as you're learning who you are as a dom, right? What kind of submissives you're going to deal with. And when you have a certain flavor that you like, then you might have to make some sacrifices. If you like baby girls, if you like housewife submissives and things like that, then you have to move very, very slow unless you're just playing with them, right? If you're just going to play with them, then they're going to know that because you're going to conversate with them about, hey, I'm just looking for playtime. I'm only going to be around, when we set up to be around. I'm going to meet you at, secrets, or I'm going to meet you at the woodshed. There's a lot of really great dungeons, and we'll talk about dungeons because that word it might cause a little friction for somebody. But maybe you don't meet them in private right away. You have to protect you too. That's something we believe in BDSM. The woman is very valuable, but so is the dom, right?
Mm.
And you have to think about you too and protect yourself emotionally, spiritually, physically. This is a discipline, right? It's not just a buffet of kinks, right? It's a discipline. And so you have to decide, hey, and if I'm dealing with this kind of sub and I've talked to her and I see that she requires attention because I've asked her, okay, well then, and she is looking for a dom, and she's not looking for a play dom or somebody to play with. She wants a dom that's a lifestyle. Oh, she wants a lifestyle dom. Okay. All right. Well, then I should not sleep with her right out of the gate. Okay.
Mm.
Because the same thing that we do, the message we send when we sleep with a man out of the gate is the same message you send, especially to a sub that has a little history, somebody who's a little smart, right? We have the same little attitude over here because we're empowered. Right. So even as submissives, we see a guy, he wants to sleep with us. He just met us yesterday. We're like, he's a
Ooh, that
toy.
is a good one.
He's a toy, and we might play with him, but if you're interested in us, we're probably never going to take you serious after that night. Not ever again. And so you have to decide how you want to view yourself. You have to decide, how much energy you have to give. You have to take the time to get to know someone. And all of those things play a part in having a more healthy outlook on sexuality at large.
Okay. I'm glad you mentioned that, right? That actually brings me up a question I didn't initially think of that I think will be really helpful for the conversation. Um, so when we're talking about power dynamics, right? This was something that you mentioned to me a while back that I thought was very, very interesting, right? When you mention like power dynamics, how can what's the environment or what's like what is the power dynamic like as a submissive woman, right? Does she, because I know she's not completely powerless, right? Can you talk about that? Be a little bit more specific on that.
Well, the power dynamic is something you and your sub, or depends on who we're talking to right now, right? If you're a sub, you and your dom, um, that's something you guys map out together. Now, I'm not saying that you would map that out overnight. Um, I have been with my dom for 10 years. We ain't mapped it all out yet. Okay, um, so it's still a realistic uh, relationship, right? You want to map it out as much as you can concerning power dynamics. Now, in my life, this is just an example. I am in charge of my house. Okay. I dare you to go into my living room and sit on my Victorian couch and you have, the clothes you were wearing when you were mowing the lawn. Okay. That's going to be an argument. All right. I am a baby girl submissive, a housewife submissive. I love the housewife dynamic. Right. I want to cook. I want to clean. I love to serve. And so that turns me on. Okay. I want you to go to work and leave me alone and let me get it ready for you to come back. That's who I am, though, as a sub. Where
Mm-hmm.
my power
Which
stops
part?
and starts, I'm not in control of my finances, right? Um, I'm not in control of every decision that is made, especially as far as where we go out and what we do when we go out. Am I allowed to look at men while we're out? No, look down. Okay, got it. These are things that we work out together prior to even touching each other sexually. Okay. We start that conversation about who's in power of what first, right? And we
Mm-hmm.
make rules. And then as things go, maybe you found a sub and this is going to be your boo. You're going to collar her, you're going to marry her. Okay. But as things go, just like any other relationship, you might find a place where, hey, we need to pause and sit down and work this out so that there's structure in it so that this doesn't happen again. Right. So, how much power a sub has depends on the relationship that sub is in. Right. And, you know, it there's so many flavors to that.
Yes, that could be a show all by itself, talking about the different types of dynamics that could go in so many different directions.
Now,
I get that.
but if we're just talking about in general,
Mhm.
a submissive has just as much power as a dom.
This
Both
is the part I
parties
wanted you to get into.
are providing each other something.
Hmm.
And I just want to empower my submissive women because we get beat up a lot in the vanilla world. Okay. When you come to the realization that you are submissive, there's an empowerment in that because you are a rare, very rare thing. Okay. And if no man ever tells you, I've just told you, if you are submissive at heart, you are a very rare jewel. Okay. And there is power in that because you are providing something just as valuable as this Dom, right? Because you cannot rule without somebody to rule over. So this Dom and his value does not outweigh your value, right?
Hmm.
I have, I always say to my Dom, no love, no sub. You can you can decide on any given day at any given time, I am no longer submissive to you. Okay. And remembering that is very, very important, right? Because there's a lot of psychology that goes on in these connections, right? No love, no sub is very good. If you're submissive, you should write that down everywhere. Okay. And you should understand the power that you hold and the position you hold and never forget it. It is very, very powerful to be submissive.
Hmm. So by love, no sub, by no
No,
love, no sub, no love. Can you explain that
no
one more
love,
time?
no sub. So In my dynamic, I created rules for me, right? To keep me in a healthy psychological space. And I have mentors too. It's a very good idea to find a mentor if you're going to decide to journey into BDSM and explore. Um, and what my mentors have taught me is that because my personality is geared towards service, right? I might find myself in a position of serving someone or some while they're doing something that is making me uncomfortable if I'm not careful, right? So you've just spoken to me in this horrible way. I feel insecure. I have not consented to, degradation. Okay. And you have just done this thing. And now you're like, I need a cup of coffee. And because I'm geared toward this thing, I'm racing to get this cup of coffee. These kind of women who don't know who they are yet end up in very abusive situations. Right. So one of the things that you should very much remember if you have a submissive personality for real, if it's a lifestyle for you, is to pull back a little bit. Pull back a little bit on your desire to serve this man and make sure you're respecting, honoring, and loving yourself, right? In a way that makes him understand that in order for me to want to be submissive to you, and in order for me to allow you to be in control of me, then you have to be in control of you. Okay, that should be a prerequisite before you even allow somebody the space to dominate you. They need to show that they have dominated their own mind, their own heart, their own structure. They have their own discipline and they're intact. And when they come out of the pocket like they don't have it together, turn the submissive off. Okay, get a switch where you know how to do that so that you don't fall into, situations that are abusive. And I learned that very, very late in my life. And so I really enjoy being able to share that with other women, especially young women who don't understand what they are and don't understand how to turn that switch off. No love, no sub. Don't submit to something that makes you feel awful. That's what that means.
Okay. We're doing great so far. I think we're reaching probably that halfway mark right here. We can probably take a quick break. DQ, are you still there? Or do you dip out? Okay, since we're waiting on DQ to get back on the ones and twos, I'm gonna go ahead with another question. I'm gonna try not to lead too far into another really good subject here. So let's get a little bit more, I guess, about maybe a little bit more personal. I know you said that you didn't want to critique too much about me and what I do, but I absolutely recently learned a lesson about attempting to basically spread myself a little too thin as far as energy goes, and having too many different people I'm dealing with. I mean, I know in the BDSM world we call them playmates, but I'm definitely trying my best to make sure this message is as palatable as possible. I don't want anybody to feel as if they've been taken advantage of, because that's definitely not my thing. So you brought up a really cool topic, right? So how would you explain the difference between a open relationship or poly, or someone who has multiple playmates, as opposed to someone who just has multiple partners in the vanilla world?
Oh, this is a good one because this is a good one. Oh, that's good, Logic. Okay, so this is definitely for the guys, right?
It is for the guys.
So this is for the guys. Okay. It can be for some girls too, because some girls have this bug too. So we're going to keep it BDSM and talk about people who like to have multiple sexual partners. Okay. So in vanilla, that's a no-no. That's a no-no, and they don't even want to talk about it, right? You have multiple sexual partners as a woman in vanilla, you know what they call you? We all know the word. And if you have multiple sexual partners as a man in the vanilla world, then you're just a player. Okay. But we're leaving out of the vanilla world and we're walking into this door that is BDSM where you can be whatever you want, right? Okay. Well, now you have a responsibility. There is a lot of honesty that has to get on to you, and all of the hiding and ducking and, all of the things that you had to do in the vanilla world. Those things are now, they're like things that you're used to doing, and you have to wash it off. And this starts to become really hard for some people, right? So if you want multiple partners in BDSM, then again, I can't stress this enough. This has to come out in the communication, right? So now you're in BDSM and you're this Dom and you're like, I want 1,000 women because I have this freedom now. Okay. And you're over here looking at these different women. Now you can really look at if this is realistic or not. Okay. Because you're free to do it. And what most people find is it's not very realistic at all because people require energy. Okay. They require attention no matter who you are. So let's talk about playmates. Playmates, you can't just disrespect them because they want to be playmates with you. In the vanilla world, we call this a hookup, right?
Yes.
So a playmate, you meet this person, you find out that they're submissive or you find out that they're a dom, and you say, hey, I want to just talk to you a little bit, find out what you're into. You guys talk, you vet, you find out what each other's into. And then while you're finding out what each other's into, you find out you both just want to meet every once in a while and play this game. Maybe you want to do a scene, and we can talk about scenes later. Maybe you just want to do a little, role playing for the weekend. Maybe there's all these different ideas that you could come up with that you might want to do with this person, but you don't want a relationship that is a dedicated sort of marriage type relationship. You don't want to go steady. Let's say that like back in the day, they used to say go steady. You just want to spend some time with the person and go, and then spend some time and enjoy them again later. Those are the people we call playmates, right? And you might even be married. Let's give an example. And you're married to this sub, and okay, so you say, you know what I want to do? I want to spank you. And your submissive wife says, listen here, you take that belt out if you want to, and punch you in your eye. Okay, because I didn't consent to that. And I never told you was going to be hitting me with no belt. And she thinks it's crazy and it's freaky. Okay, so you say, okay, well, can I do it with a playmate? Maybe the two of you make rules about playmates. Maybe she says, don't kiss that playmate. Maybe she says, don't, I pick the playmates. I don't know. Whatever your thing is going to be, talk about it before you do it. Right? And then she says, okay, I'm going to pick the playmates. And she picks this person and they're down with every kink you got, right? They might just be a playmate, somebody you enjoy or you enjoy with your sub once in a while. And then you have the polyamorous relationship, right? Where you are deeply involved with several subs. Okay. And now you have to gauge how much energy you have and how deep you can be involved with these different people. Right. So that would be the poly, for us being in a poly, it might look like that. Right. But it can look however you want it to look. But this is just an example. It might look like you have a slave sub, a baby sub, and all different types. Right. And you know how to deal with each one of them. You know what each one of them is expecting and needing from you. And you are able to, do this. But the mistake that I see is when people come into this world and they feel this sexual freedom and they pick up too much at once, right? And they get overwhelmed, all right? And getting close to a submissive is something you really, 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 really want to take your time in doing if that submissive is looking for a lifestyle from you. If she's looking for a connection that's going to be lasting from you, that's something you really want to take your time in doing. Engage if you have time to take on another submissive or not.
Man. Miss Tender, we definitely love all this information that you are giving us. Right now, as we run into this 40-minute mark, we're about to go ahead and do a commercial because this is sponsored by KUSHCUMBERS. So we're about to run this quick commercial break for everybody.
Yeah, DQ. Check. Have you ever had a dream in the daytime? Had the same dream since the playground. If you made it come true, cause you stay down. Nigga, have you ever really thought about the limelight? In a room full of stars when you shine bright. I'ma make the right move when the time right. Alright. Nigga, have you ever had a dream during the daytime? Had the same dream since the playground. If you made it come true, cause you stay down. Nigga, have you ever really thought about the limelight? In the room full of stars when you shine bright. I'ma make the right move when the time right. Calculated every step, so I can't stand a hater out here hating on. Niggas out here making moves. See a hand out the type of shit they waiting on.
Yes. Man, we are getting a cornucopia of information right now. I'm seeing in the chat people are loving it. People are diving in, asking different questions because this is very interesting, and I'm glad how we can bring it to the forefront because these are the type of conversations that people like to have behind doors, but it needs to be held up front. Apologies, I'm getting text. But yeah, Logic, go ahead and proceed and get it going. Miss Tender, we loving what you're doing. Keep on killing the queen. Handle your business.
No, I appreciate it, man. This has been a lot of fun, man. I definitely got a few more questions lined up, and if anybody else wants to, throw in some questions too, I'd enjoy that. So I would absolutely be one of those people who fit into that polyamorous category. And I've had to learn some lessons about how to manage it. Right? It's been I guess a real blessing to have somebody that I can have some confidence in and be able to tell, I guess some of my secrets and, some of the things that I'm actually going through. And for someone to care enough to be able to help me walk through it and just, kind of want to see me actually succeed. And I definitely appreciate you for that, Tender. That's been, irreplaceable, to be completely honest about it. It's been, we've had our journey, ups and downs, like all good friendships do. But I'm actually glad that I've had a chance to run into you and be able to, explore this side of myself, this side of life, and enjoy some life with you too. So it's been amazing. I've definitely been enjoying it for real.
Well, I love this subject. I love to mentor, sane people. You never know who you're going to run into in this life. And I can be found on FET, Tender Miami, and you can find me on FET. It's been a pleasure mentoring you. I really enjoy it, and I think you're the most brilliant, very sophisticated man, and I think it's great how you think. It's very logical, but it's great.
That was a little inside joke, but I appreciate that. Yeah, that's cool. I appreciate you too. Like, especially just some of the depth of conversations that we're able to get into. That's something that I crave as a person who, I guess just a little natural intellectual. I love the depth and some of the detail that we can go into, especially when we talk about like personality types and relationship dynamics and attachments. We can go on and on and on. And I think that's probably was a real natural mesh that we had. It's like a love for some of those details and the psychology of it, which is gonna lead me right into my next question, right?
Hey, Logic, before you ask that question, ask the question that you see on the screen right now. That's something I see somebody asking in the chat.
So how do you meet someone that is BDSM in the vanilla world? I would say the best place to meet these people, right? Was she actually just mentioned FET, right? FET is
But let me say, I don't think FET is the best place to meet somebody in BDSM.
Let's get.
So
I was going to give a simple one, but go ahead.
that is good. That is good. You need community. Okay. And FET can be also very raunchy. FET, anything that when we're talking about sexuality, we're going to have a smorgasbord of things going on no matter what room we walk in. And so, because that question, it looks like it's coming, I want to be careful. Okay. If you're a man or a woman, you are just as valuable both ways. You have to be very, very slow moving. It doesn't matter where you're meeting them. You can look locally for, munches, which I think were mentioned in the last episode. Munches are like, they're like brunches for people who are into the life. You can find dungeons in and around where you live. You can actually Google them, right? BDSM. Google it. BDSM dungeons, BDSM parties, BDSM websites. You're not going to find a wrong one, right? Mm-hmm. But what you want to do is you want to take your time, just like when you're researching anything. We can go online and we can say, you know what? I want to research about spirituality. And you know what I think I want to research today? I want to research about, you could pick anything, right? Jesus. And then you go online and you're going to find all this garbage. And then you'll find one or two things that are actually, valid, right? So what you want to do is, just like anything else, really read, really understand the verbiage, really understand for yourself so that when you're talking to someone else who is serious about this lifestyle. You won't know if you don't study for yourself, right? And so you can go on FET, you can make an account. If you're studying on the side while you're, looking at FET and reading and read, this is something I can't stress enough. When you go into FET, don't go into FET and just scroll down the pictures and find whoever's sexy enough. Okay. You want to open this person's profile up. Have they written anything? Right? Do they have any blogging going on in there? You want to have a conversation in chat that lasts more than just, hey, I'm into it. Are you into it? Unless you're just looking for a playmate. But, even then you need to be careful, and so there's no definitive place. There's just you researching and finding the places that are in your area where the community gathers, and then being very careful and knowledgeable as you're having the conversations, and always lead with the conversations.
Mm-hmm. I want to add on to that, right? The reason why I will start out with FetLife, because FetLife actually has like an event tab in there, right? Where you could put like your local city in there, and they can and they actually people actually organize these different parties. Me personally, I prefer the social ones. I'm not a big, sex party person. That's not really my jam. Because I like to talk, I like to go out and say hello, see who I'm actually talking to. I'm not a person that's just looking to have a bunch of playmates. I prefer connection, right? Which is probably why I'm more in that polyamorous category, because I actually do like to actually really get to know. It's even a part of one of my kinks, right? I have to be able to share with you guys, right? Like I like the process of seeing how well our personalities match, right? And like how much am I actually going to be able to enjoy spending time with you outside of us just having some kink together. I think that part is actually cool too. But since I see myself as, not necessarily trying to just collect a bunch of people to play with, I do prefer somebody that I actually feels like deserves my attention. You kind of get what I'm saying? Like I want to be I want the actual connection to be fulfilling for me too, right? And that's a part of it for me. So I need that. Like that's actually something that I need, as far as, do I actually want to spend a little bit more time with you, go a little bit further with that. So
the sapio, you're a sapio.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I want to put this in the air a little bit too, because you were about to tap on the psychology. So
Yeah, we was
Maybe I
getting
should
there.
wait till you say it.
What were you about
Okay,
to say
you go.
something? Were you about to say something, DQ?
Oh no, I was just about to say, y'all was getting ready to tap into the psychology for episode 3. We gonna have to go ahead and wrap it up soon. Y'all was about to open up
Okay,
a whole
okay.
nother look at the chat. What's the sapio? See, we was about to do a
Yeah,
whole
we was gonna
hour.
start going hard. Okay,
Yeah, we
okay.
gotta
I can
we gotta
respect
go
that.
ahead and drop some tidbits out. What we gonna do is we gonna take one more question from the chat, and then we can go ahead and start wrapping it up because this right here is something that can go to 100 episodes. I'm ready to get some more information from you, Tender. Logic is a big reservoir of knowledge. You know, that's my player brother right there. You know what I'm saying? So I'm definitely loving how this is going. And let me see. The question we're gonna ask is from Agent. What's the common understanding that the people who attend meetings and events have in mind?
Different events have different things in mind. So you just really have to read what it's the description of the event and make sure that that's going along the lines of something that you're trying to do. Um, I want to say this before we wrap up because it's very important for me to say, and it's my responsibility.
Mhm.
Um, One of the biggest things that we focus on in BDSM is consent. And you want to make sure that you are giving your consent to things and that you are getting consent for things, not just physical things, but also emotionally. What are you willing to deal with emotionally? What are you willing to deal with psychologically? What are you willing to deal with physically? All of those things need to be clear. And I think a really good place to start if you're being introduced to this lifestyle is really starting to ask yourself some questions about who you are and what you want in this kind of connection.
Oh yeah, that's a big one. Some ask yourself the tough questions too, man. The tough ones for sure. Like like one of mine. I guess we're wrapping it up. And we'll be real short on it. One of my questions, right, that I struggle with asking myself, probably because like some of the prior relationship experiences I had, right, it was tough for me to ask myself, hey, like other than how she looks, like what else do I really like about her, right? Like all of those things were tough for me at first, and then when I got a real handle on them, that's when stuff started to really click for me as far as
Right.
like wow,
Right.
this is how this experience becomes really fulfilling because I've got some of these tough questions answered, and some of
Right.
them
And if you
were
don't consent
more
to things in
sexually
the
charged than others, and
Right. And
there
if you
you
don't
have it.
consent to things in the beginning, now you're in another vanilla war. Like, this girl is clingy. That is not something bad. That is something she is. Is that going to be abusive to you, that clinginess?
Hmm.
Or is that something that you can handle and that you can provide to her all this attention that she needs? So
Hmm.
did you consent to being texted 7 times in a day? Like, these are questions that we don't ask ourselves in the vanilla world. We don't want to pick on who somebody is. We just want to know who they are and make sure that we have each other's consent to be who we are with each other. Right.
Nice. Man,
Hmm.
this has been an amazing show. Thank you so much, Tender, for blessing us with your presence. I know this ain't the only time. I'm about to go ahead and write your name on a cup so you won't be dirtying up the cups because you know you're going to be coming through. You're going to be part of the
Mm,
family. I want to thank
cool.
everybody for coming out tonight. Go ahead and give y'all final words. Logic, give your final words. Tender, give your final words. And we going to wrap it up.
I look forward to being able to collaborate some more with Tinder, man. I've actually really enjoyed this show, and I knew we weren't going to be able to fit it all in, but I also knew that was pause. I knew that was going to be a good thing. I knew that we was going to be able to have so much to talk about, especially her, because she's so well read on the subject. And I've got some experiences, some what do you call, like when something's new to you, you're still excited about it, and I've got some of that I can share and stuff like that. So it's a good mesh, right? I think there's a lot of lot of, we both like talking deeply about the subject, and we haven't even scratched the surface, to be completely honest about it.
Yeah.
We've just kind of walked in the room and looked around and see what we saw.
And the only thing I have to say, and this is very important to say, is yes, yes, yes. Go
Yes.
ahead and give your consent. And have
Yes is
fun
the
on your
answer.
smorgasbord of kings.
Yes is the answer. Now, what is the question? Great attitude.
And with that note, y'all, we gonna go out. Want to thank everybody for being a part of the show. I want to thank Hits for helping us behind the scenes, Brass helping us behind the scenes, everybody who is in the chat. We're gonna go out with a commercial and one of them songs from DQ Hampton, and we gonna make it happen, baby. Get this going.